welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Melanin Nostalgic Runner, and we are back for another episode. Actually, a new episode, a new season of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and this is season 5, and I believe, well, this is episode 1, and the name of this episode, I believe, is Hot Dogs and... Child, hold on, I'm going to get the name. Y'all already know how I do. Don't judge. Okay. Hot Dogs and Hearsay. Yeah, so Hot Dogs and Hearsay. I knew that's what it was. But season 6, so I think I said season 5 was actually season 6. So I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up on that. But anyway, without further ado, oh, one more thing. Let me address the elephant in the room. Yes, I'm late for this review. My parents are in town, so I'm trying to work a way around that, and I finally got some free time. I'm like, okay, let me try to get these things caught up. Plus, they're on Eastern time, so they're asleep. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and do this review then. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this new season. Now, we start off with a bang. We start off with our normal, iconic housewife gig where we basically get a preview of the season and what's to come. And what I'm already liking so far is that Mary is very heavily involved this season, again, like she was last season. And also the other thing I love is that the cast is still the same. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. Last season of the show was really, really good. The whole season was good. The reunion was just kind of okay, but it was because the season was so good that the reunion just kind of wasn't the same. But other than that, and that's me being nitpicky, to be honest. Because I mean, I would think if it was any other show, it would not be that. So that's kind of what's going on with that. So anyway, I kind of want to just get to that part too, to kind of give you a recap of that. And also too, for those who haven't noticed, for my other recaps, I haven't put in Salt Lake City as an option to click so you can get caught up with my reviews before you get into this. So if this is your first time wanting to watch Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, definitely go ahead and go on the playlist. All the Housewives shows I've reviewed so far, for the most part, I have a playlist. So I just kind of wanted to give you a heads up on that. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into the episode. So it turns out, we find out this episode that Angie K and I don't know why we call her Angie K, because at this point she's the only Angie that's ever on the show. But I know why, because the previous seasons. But Angie K and Mary, they decide that they're planning this trip, and they're basically tricking the girls. So what it really is that Angie fell in love with the whole idea of RVing, and so that's what they're doing. And she wants to RV with the ladies and then go camping. Mary, it's not really Mary's involvement. It's just because they're close. They're doing it together. And Angie's driving the RV and everything. And what we find out is that that's what her, Sean, and I think her daughter's name is Alexia or something like. No, it's not Alexia. I forgot what her daughter's name is. But anyway, they go camping together. Electra. I remembered after the fact. But anyway, so they're doing this, and all the while, the women that are waiting do not realize that this is not, because they basically gave the ladies this ambiguous invitation that really doesn't explain what type of trip they're doing. So they have no idea. So they're all thinking they're about to go somewhere really nice, luxurious, very, your typical housewives type nice thing. And I'm like, on the first episode, that's what they're thinking. But basically, while they're waiting, because they're waiting at Heather's beauty bar, Heather then proceeds with the narrating of, because basically before the season where we were kind of getting what's to come, Mary was narrating that to kind of get us started on the show. And right now, here we have Heather narrating. And Heather is basically just stating that there's so many fractured friendships. What could possibly go wrong? You know how that goes. And so basically we find out, kind of just like as like a little big thing, is that Meredith is beefing with Brittany Heather is beefing with not Bronville. Wow, Bronville. I combined. I'm sorry. And Bronwyn, Whitney, and Angie, they're all beefing with Lisa. And Mary's a wild card, which is how it always is with Mary. She's a wild card. You just never know who she's got a problem with. But for the most part, you kind of always know who she has a problem with. She basically calls everyone out their BS for the most part, and that's kind of what it is. So anyway, everyone's waiting, though, at this beauty bar minus Lisa. So Lisa is missing this whole entire time. And she kind of we see a scene of her calling, I forgot who she called. I think she called Angie to kind of let her know that she's not, she's busy, she's working, she can't do this girls trip. And that's that on that. So she basically makes excuses she's working. And so that's kind of what's going on here, at least on the show. Off the show, I don't know if they're going to address it or not. There's something else going on. So for those who are not aware, those who don't really follow the behind the scenes or all, outside the show type stuff, what I think might have happened, but I don't know if this is the same thing. I think Lisa was actually under negotiation for a contract at this time. I don't think I don't know what the reasoning was, but that was kind of what was going on. So she basically was sitting out until she got paid more. Allegedly, that's why everyone came to what was really going on versus what she was saying on the show. Because she didn't really make an appearance other than on the phone of someone. So she didn't have a confessional. At this point, she hasn't filled a confessional or nothing. So that's all we get of her. So that's that on that. And of course, somehow, some way, even though she's not on the show, she is the plot of this first episode. Shocker. Anyway, moving on. So as they're all discussing all this stuff, we then finally see Angie pull up with Mary and the driver in the back seat, because they are going to have someone drive them afterwards. Angie's not going to drive them all the way there. And so all the ladies are like, Cass. And then Miss Brittany, who's doing too much, is the only one that took the invitation literally and is wearing a bikini with like a fur coat. But then she looked a hot mess. She was wearing 3 different themes of things on. And this is not going to be the last of what we get, Brittany. But this is besides it being about Lisa, the other part of this episode was Brittany doing too much. There was but honestly, I loved it. Oh yeah, so if I was to rate this episode, oh my gosh, 10 out of 10. It was one of the best season premieres in a minute when it comes to the Housewives. So Salt Lake is still doing what they need to do. But anyway, so basically, they're all inside. They finally come to terms with, okay, we're in this RV, I guess. They still don't know the full surprise, though, yet. So they're in this RV, and right before they're about to go take off, because Angie's like, no, I'm not driving. She's like, I just drove us there. We have a driver. We're going to, get turned up on the way there to the destination. And so, out of nowhere, we see these cops show up asking for Whitney Rose, as if they're about to arrest her. And so everyone's freaking out for obvious reasons, because this has actually happened to them in real life when it comes to Jen Shaw bill. So they're all like, oh my gosh, not again. And we've heard rumors of what's going on with Whitney's finances. So at first I really thought oh my gosh, was she doing some stuff? But it turned out Whitney just hired some male strippers. And they were very stripper-esque, and not in a fun way. So, okay. I also watched, even though I'm not going to review it, I watched Real Housewives of Orange County this week. And part of what they did this week is they actually went to a strip club. But it was it seemed like it was or it wasn't even a strip club. It was like a gay bar, I think, in West Hollywood. And anyway, but they had male strippers there. But in these type of environments, a lot of the strippers, they present as gay strippers, you know, to appease their clients, because most of the people who are going to these bars are gay. But a lot of times, some of them are gay to pay, and some of them are just doing the job and that's it, but they're actually straight. Don't ask me how I know that, but I know that. just saying. Anyway, so but in this case, this wasn't that. It was definitely giving, like, I don't know, Magic Mike. And the whole entire time, Mary is just kind of disgusted. Because she was like, where's the muscles? And she was like, never mind. I was like, Mary. Because I was thinking that too. I was like, everyone's so skinny. Oh my gosh. I was like, I can throw you. And then the other thing that Angie said was like, you know, this would be nice if the guys were ever my age. They're like, it's like, oh, poor baby. Them two in their narrating when it came to this was hilarious. But anyway, another thing that should have been a giveaway is, like, why would Whitney Rose be getting arrested by SWATs? I don't care what kind of fraud she's doing. She ain't that dangerous where she needs to have the SWATs come after her. So that should have been a little bit of a hint that this is what it was. But anyway, moving on. They finally do head on out. And as they're heading on out, on the way there, everyone's trying to figure out, Mary says something snippy towards Brittany, because Brittany's just annoying. And, you know, Mary don't like her and never have. And then out of nowhere, I think it was Heather who finally asked, where is Lisa? Because it was very vague what some of the ladies said, but Angie really knows the storyline knows what's going on. I don't know if all the ladies knew what was going on when it came to the contracts of it all. But I'm kind of waiting to see what happens when it comes to Lisa and her edit and everything this season based off of all that. Because, yeah, I'm just curious. I'm curious about it. Anyway. And so, basically, Lisa's excuse was, the excuse that Angie presented was work. But Angie's not buying it. Because also the other thing that Angie was told by Lisa is that Lisa doesn't want to be around Bronwyn. And kind of making it sound like Bronwyn's a whole entire threat. Even though she's not. And so Bronwyn and some of the ladies are just not buying this. She has to work and she's going to skip. Because, let's go behind the curtain. She has to work, right? But her hanging out with her friends on the show is also work. And I feel like, and this is just me being fully transparent, her having to work versus work for the show, it may not be the same. I feel like the show would be more, even though she was allegedly negotiating for even more than whatever her job is. So we just got to think about that. But anyway, but you could tell that this whole entire Lisa thing is really about the show and not really about Lisa's excuses. So anyway, Whitney is not buying it either. And then Brittany just is blindly being loyal to Lisa as if like they've been best friends for years. And she's like, no, like, what were we talking about? She's like, I think she is working. Why are you saying all these bad things about her? And they go back and forth and they just, it's ridiculous. And then the whole entire time, what was funny to me, but also too, we kind of are seeing a little bit of something here. Heather is just confused about, you know, when did all of a sudden Brittany and Lisa become close? Also, too, what I'm also seeing here is she's making fun of Brittany for doing what she's doing when it comes to Lisa. But Brittany's you and you are Lisa. You are Brittany when it comes to like y'all caping for Lisa. You two look like two pick-me's. I know I'm jumping ahead, but it is what it is when it comes to me. when it comes to this. But anyway, so Brittany in her confessional is doubling down though about how great of friends Lisa and her are. And we already know when it comes to Brittany, we don't take her seriously. We're just kind of like, okay, Jan. That's all it is. It's like, okay, Jan. But we love her on the show because she's entertaining. Because she's someone that everyone loves to be annoyed by. But anyway, moving on. Okay, so then they finally do actually arrive at this campsite, and so that's when we find out that's when they find out that they're camping, and they're not just taking this RV to get somewhere permanently. And this campsite, at first, everyone's intimidated and is like, "Oh my gosh, what is this? What is this?" And they're all kind of freaking out about it. But the only people that are somewhat excited about all this is bad weather. So, aka with Whitney and Heather are the only two that are excited about this camping thing. Everyone else is like, oh man, this is not our thing. Not my thing. Bronwyn, I wasn't that surprised by because, like, girl, she doesn't look like she's ever camped a day in her life. And she's still dressing the way she was dressing last season, side note. Anyway. And so once they get seated and they get ready to do lunch, they're at the campsite. They're setting up to do lunch. And the producers and the camera people, we can see all of it because of what happens next. And what happens next is that Brittany decides she's going to make some lemonade out of lemons about her filming the ladies without their requests, as if like the ladies are over that. They're not, by the way. We know that they're not. And so she's like, yeah, I got you guys camcorders. And it was really awkward and kind of weird. But then all the girls just decide, okay, we're going to play along with this. This sounds cool. This sounds like fun. Let's go ahead and do that. So that's kind of what ends up happening. And then basically everyone after that basically shares how they're disappointed that Lisa's not there. Some of the ladies are upset and some of the ladies are just like disappointed. And then out of nowhere here, I forgot who brought it up, but it was either Whitney, Angie, or Bronwyn. I'm pretty sure it was Bronwyn, but I'm not 100% sure, that they start talking about Lisa's multiple lawsuits that are out there. 5 to be exact. And some of the ladies are like, yeah, I've heard that's a thing. And really the only women who are just like, I've never heard of it, is really only Heather and Britt. And everyone else is like, no, we've heard. Like, we're not saying that she did all this stuff, but we've heard about the lawsuits. Like, it's out there. And at this point, even with the negotiation of it all, this was out there. It was. If you're someone who follows behind the scenes, it was out there. So we kind of knew. So those who be following the things, you kind of knew that this was going to be possibly brought up on the show. Normally, Lisa's stuff doesn't get brought up on the show, but it is clearly this episode. And I don't know how much longer moving on. But yeah. And that's kind of what ends up happening here. And even some of the ladies even call it out. Like, she calls everyone else out on their stuff, but we never get to have to talk about her stuff. And so this is kind of what ends up brewing in throughout this whole entire episode. And so basically, Meredith is trying to be neutral when it comes to all the conversations. By the way, she's not necessarily throwing Lisa under the bus when it comes to her starting stuff with everyone and talking about everyone else's business. She is staying out of it. But we kind of already know, if you watched last season, I think they still kind of have an alliance. So she's trying to be neutral, but she's also not trying to be so ride or die for Lisa, where she gets herself, she's on the wrong side of history. So she's not trying to do that either, because, strategic, being strategic here. Anyway, so then from here, Angie K makes this horrible comparison. And I'm not sure how or why she made this horrible comparison. She compares what Lisa's been, like Lisa's lawsuits, to Jen Shaw. And all the ladies are like, girl, no, that's not it. That's not it. And then even Angie had to backpedal when it came to that, because it didn't make sense when she said that. Because civil lawsuits versus legal proceedings. And not only legal proceedings, proof that she did do that. These are allegations, but they're lawsuit allegations. They're not criminal. Anyway, and so out of nowhere, Heather and Bronwyn just start going back and forth when it comes to the lease of it all. And it's just, what we already kind of see in this episode, Heather will not let the mouse go when it comes to Bronwyn. She does not like Bronwyn, and that's what it is. And Bronwyn, with love, I need you to stop trying to be cool with Heather. Because Heather is only going to be cool with you for the sake of, for the peace at times, but then as soon as she gets a chance to not get along with you, she's going to find it. We know that that's what she's doing because she's threatened by Bronwyn. Anyway, and so basically at this point, what was I going to say? Oh, so then out of nowhere, Britt decides she's going to interrupt. I have an announcement. I have an announcement. I have an announcement. You know, Jerry and I have been through a lot, so much this past year, and we're engaged. And everyone's just like, okay. And then she's like, and then 3 days later, we became unengaged. And everyone's just like, and then Mary, she was getting me this whole time. She's just like, I was like, she wanted to, you could tell Mary just wanted to bang her head against the table. She was like, oh my God, what's wrong with this lady? And even Heather at confessional is just like, this is not an announcement. I don't think she knows what this means. And everyone is just laughing at her. They're not laughing with her. They're not expressing her joy. They're just kind of like, girl, what is wrong with you? Anyway, this like spitfires into a fight. And it's a whole entire mess. But anyway, moving on. Side note, this thing that Brittany was doing this episode, she did it multiple times. So what she just did here, she just kept doing it. She kept finding ways to make things about her. Either this is an act for the show or she is like a ridiculous narcissist, and that might explain why her kids don't talk to her. Because we already found out from last season that her kids don't deal with her. And that makes sense to me if that's what it is. But anyway, so I don't think it has anything, for me, it doesn't seem like it has anything to do with the Mormon background. It seems like she's just kind of just not, the lights are not on. The lights are not on. So to me, I feel like she's expressing some narcissistic behavior with the lights not being on. But anyway, neither here nor there. Something's off. We already knew that about Brittany. Something's off. But this is entertaining to watch, and if she wants to make a complete butt of herself on this TV show without even being a full-time housewife, who am I to judge? But anyway, so after that, the ladies decide they're going to do some activities, so they break it up. And so we have 3 of the ladies, Bronwyn, Heather, and Whitney, kayaking, while the other ladies are going to do fly fishing. And so there's only 2 kayaks. One is like, a dual kayak, and the other one's just a regular kayak, just for one person. And Whitney decides she's just going to have her own kayak, while Bronwyn and Heather had to share a kayak. And they're doing this, and this is like the first time where we see Heather and Bronwyn working together, because they kind of have to, and also they are getting along. So this is where we're supposed to believe that they are squashing their beef. Based off what I already said, we know that it's not going to last. It does last for the remaining of this episode, but we know for real that this whole entire piece is not going to last. Anyway, so then as they're so while they're fly fishing, Heather's getting some tea about where they're at. It turns out that this place is allegedly haunted, where there's this whole legend of this Mormon girl who was not living a Mormon life, and she got killed. And so to seek revenge, she just basically kills anyone there or whatever. So that's kind of what they're trying to say, or, with this legend, basically and so What was funny about this, though, for me, I'm just gonna skip ahead because, of course, they did end up having to investigate, right? These producers are undefeated when it comes to the production and the work that they do at Salt Lake City. Because what cracked me up, why did they do a whole entire Blair Witch Project situation in the middle of a housewife show? Chef's kiss. It was so good. It was so good. We'll get to that. But anyway, so then we do end up getting to this dinner situation, and the dinner situation is a hot mess because Angie didn't really remember anything. So they have no way of cooking like anything that they have. She forgot the buns. She has hot dogs, forgot the buns. She did not bring a griddle. I feel like she didn't even bring silverware. And then Angie was just like, we're supposed to be one with nature. You guys are complaining so much. But really, we found out in confessional, she literally forgot everything. That's all it was. And she's like, yeah, I actually forgot everything. But that's neither here nor there. Angie was cracking me up. This was just so good. Everyone was understood the assignment this episode. But anyway. And so then Bronwyn and Heather are getting along. And we find this out that they're getting along. Angie immediately calls it out. She's like, okay, so does that mean once Lisa comes back, you're gonna beef with Bronwyn again? Basically alluding to Heather is a different is only becoming this kind of mean girl person because she wants to be, cool with Lisa Barlow. And I just wanted to do it one time because she wasn't on the show. So I just had to do the Barlow one time. And of course, Heather's denying it. But we all know this to be a fact. And then, of course, Angie's calling out the BS in the confessional. It's like, of all the things that Lisa has done to you, you still are just going to be cool with her. And then Whitney, of course, is co-signing as well. And then Britt, out of nowhere, just chimes in and changes the topic and makes things about her. And I forgot what she even brought up, but it was like one of those things like, girl, no one cares. It was one of them, girl, no one cares. And Meredith has had enough. She's like, oh my God. I forgot to mention one thing. So somehow I forgot this part. In between the multiple times that Britt has interrupted and made things about her, I think this particular time, I don't remember if it was this time or another time in this episode, she basically resumed the issue that she had with Whitney, and Whitney basically calling her a hoe when it comes to the Jared situation and everything like that. And Whitney was like, you know what? And you're making fun of my business and you're putting all my business out on Front Street. And this is where Whitney finally mentions, like, look, I have a failed business. My business failed. That's what happened. She basically outed herself on what's going on with her situation when it comes to her businesses. She's like, I disappointed multiple employees, I disappointed families, and I'm disappointed myself. And I went from having, a potential $1 million company to zero. Like, we're broke and we're going through it right now. So it's nice to hear that this season Whitney will have potentially for once have a storyline. But we kind of already saw this coming just because if you follow any of the news that happens when it comes to outside the show, we heard about some of the money issues that her and her husband have, but I guess this season we're actually going to see it. And then, so after this is where Brittany kind of changes her tune and tries to apologize to Whitney. And then she tries to give her a hug. And Whitney's like, dude, I'm not, don't touch me. And then after that, then I believe this is where the Meredith thing comes in at. It either comes in before or after this. I'm not 100% sure, but I did forget this little tidbit. So, yeah. Anyway. Fourth. And Brittany accuses Meredith of doing all this crazy stuff. And Meredith's like, I don't care. And I feel like every time all this is happening, Mary's like, get her, Meredith. Last season, that was literally one of my favorite scenes last season when Meredith got activated. Because the thing is, I know, I even say it myself, Meredith be boring. But then I did walk it back when I'm like, but when she shows up, she shows out, and it is comical. So that seeing last season when Brittany was filming everyone or recording everyone without their knowledge, she's like, "You're recording us? Oh my gosh, that's disgusting. That is vile. How could you just recording us?" And she's like going ham. And then as she's doing all this, we hear Mary in the background, "Get her, Meredith." So this whole entire time when Meredith is going back and forth with Brittany, I'm just thinking in the back of my head, Mary's like, "Get her, Meredith." Anyway, so then they do end up dropping it, and then Heather talks about this whole entire legend, and they want to investigate the scene. And then that's why I tell you what ends up happening with the whole entire Blair Witch Project. And Meredith, out of nowhere, just like runs away. She plays a person who runs away and like disappears. And it was hilarious. And then of course, it deemed a commercial break. Oh, my bad. It wasn't even the commercial break. That was the end of the episode. I'm so sorry. You know why I thought it was a commercial break? Because Bravo lately has been showing you previews of the next episode. And when they do the previews, they actually show you like the first couple minutes of the next episode. So I actually watched a couple scenes of the next episode. So in my head, I don't know why it translates to it being commercial, but that really wasn't the episode, and it is to be continued. But spoiler, do you think something really happened with Meredith? They're just giving cinema. That's what they're doing. But anyway, that does conclude the first episode of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Like I said, it was an amazing episode. I enjoyed it. It's very clear to me that there is definitely a clear line in the sand. It is Lisa with her two only supporters at this point. The two good Mormon girls, which is Heather and Brittany. Everyone else is like, yeah, we're not supporting all that. And we could tell Mary still is not cool with Lisa because of something that happened last season that wasn't aired. So, yeah, they all kind of have a problem with Lisa. And I'm wondering if this season will that come up. But anyway, yeah, like I said, that does conclude the episode. I'm sorry, I have something in my eye. But please let me know what you think about this episode. It seems like that the season's going to be such a great season. So we're in for a treat when it comes to this franchise. But anyway, please like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you get anything out of the content. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Melanin Nostalgic Runner. And I will see you next time. Bye.